You can use a tag to include the text of another file directly into your JSP page. Here's an example of text that can be included. This is a simple text file. It contains a couple of HTML tags. It can be text anywhere on the internet. I just stuck it in the directory with the JSP pages to show you how this works. Here's a page that includes it. Now, here's all you have to do to include that page. The import tag has a URL attribute that names the file to be included. This is a relative URL that simply names a file in the same directory on the same server, but any URL that addresses a file will do. It could be, say, text generated from a servlet on an entirely different server. All you have to do is put the URL in an import statement like this, but it has to be includable text. You can't just randomly include any page because they all contain their own HTML and body tags and such. Okay, that's simple enough, but I've used this same page to demonstrate choose and when. You should recognize this bean as being the same one that was used in the previous lesson. It has methods that return lists of names. The data returned from the bean is used to set up a for each loop, the same as it was in the previous lesson. In this case, the choose statement is used each time through the loop to select specific actions for specific members of the list. If the name is Azure, this line of text is included as part of the resulting HTML page. If the name is Blue, this is the line of text that's included. If there are no matches, if none of them match, none of the previous tests were true, and this is the default, the one labeled Otherwise. Starting over. As you can see, this outputs a line of text that includes the name, whatever the name happens to be. Now, you may need a reminder here as to what is actually happening. I know I had to go back and take a look at it. Recall that a JSP page is first converted to a method of a Java class. Then that method is executed to produce the HTML. If you include just plain text, you get an output statement that produces that plain text. It's also possible to produce code that loops and has conditional statements and multi-way branches. If you're really curious, you may want to use the technique from a few lessons back to look at the Java code this produces. I had to go take a look, but if you don't need to know, then don't look under the hood. You can just use it. Now, here's the page. Here at the top, you see the imported text. It had some embedded HTML tags, and those came with it. There were a couple of them that drew the horizontal lines. It's just as if the imported file had been coded directly in line in this page. This could be handy for standard stuff like headings or menu selections if you wanted to have that covered on every page. These are the lines of output produced in the loop. The first three were selections that didn't appear in the list, so they executed the line with the Otherwise tag. The last one shown here is the name Azure, which was one of the when tests. Another selection, the one looking for the word blue, was never executed because that name is not in the list.